let Coach open up with an opening statement, and we'll take questions.
Again, I just before we begin, I just want to publicly say thank you to everybody that made it possible for us to play a football game last Saturday night. I'm not sure we all quite grasp the the hours of work behind the scenes that went on by so many people all the way down the line in this department to help us get a chance to have a chance to play this football season and ultimately pull off our first game. From trainers and doctors to event managers to administration to on down the line, it's just a remarkable effort, and on behalf of our players and our staff, we sincerely appreciate it. So truly, we're in the middle of, truly, kind of the definition of teamwork here, and different arms working together to try to help this go as smoothly as possible. Um, you know, I kind of slipped into a little bit of alternate reality Sunday morning when I woke up and felt relieved and felt like we were past it all, and it didn't take me very long to realize that we're still dealing with all of these issues. We're still in the middle of the pandemic, still that weight is certainly not off of us, and we cannot let up. So we're still working on a literally a day-to-day basis, and trying to do the best to patch it together to get ready for traveling to Duke. I know Duke has not started off the way that they wanted to start, but I've seen them play 3 games, and their defense is playing at an extremely high level. They've had a few issues turning the football over that's put their defense in some difficult situations, but they've got a bunch of guys that have played a bunch of snaps over there on the defensive side of the ball, and David Cutcliffe is a heck of an offensive coach and head coach, and I know they're in the midst of getting those things ironed out offensively. So we have to be ready to play. It starts with a great week of preparation. We had a good workout yesterday, and the kids are obviously off today, and we'll hit it tomorrow morning. Questions?
Andy Bitter.
Hey, Justin, when you found out about Justin Hamilton on Saturday, will you be without him for an extended period here?
We'll see. We're figuring this all out. As you all know, I have no say in return dates. Really, our athletic department doesn't. It goes through Doc and through the Department of Health. So, there's interviews that go on with all those things. It's not quite as simple as just test dates. There's more to it that I don't get involved in. So, we'll have a meeting this afternoon, and as we go through the week, on each guy, player or coach, we'll hopefully have a better handle on exactly where we're at as the week goes on.
When a coach is separated or has to be separated from the team like that, how do you handle that? I would assume still involved heavily in Zoom sessions and game planning and stuff, or how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how we basically operated. Well, really on both sides of the ball last week. I mean, many of our guys on the offensive side were out for most of the week. So just like this, and it's annoying as can be, but we've got to you got to find a way to adjust. If you can't adjust, then you're not going to give your kids a chance to have success. So those meetings take place via Zoom. If we get together as staff, we have the people that are currently here, and then the people that are joining us via Zoom. If you get together defensively, it's the exact same thing. We could run some of our position meetings that way as well. So, it's really the same for players and coaches. The guys that aren't that are out as players join in just like this. So, I mean, we've got a setup that's as good as we could hope for in terms of trying to keep guys up to speed when they're removed from the team.
Use the raise hand function, gentlemen and ladies, and we'll get to as many as we can. Mike Nisley.
Yeah, Justin, with Jermaine Waller, did he miss it, the game with, is it still the ankle that was kept him out of spring? I mean, is he a long-term concern, or is he a guy that could get back here in the next couple of weeks?
I hope that he can. I know he really wants to be out there. So I'm optimistic that that he'll feel comfortable and that he'll be back with us shortly.
And then with the defensive tackles, you guys rotated a lot of guys in. Norrell started. Was Deshaun just not ready to kind of play as much? And then what did you see from that group? There seemed to be not much drop off when you did kind of get the backups in throughout the game.
Yeah, Deshaun will work his way back into playing shape and being able to play. I think you'll, just from what I've seen through practice, kind of our philosophy is we're going to try and roll those guys in to keep them as fresh as possible. I mean, certainly early in the year specifically, but we really want those guys to play with high energy, and it's difficult to play high energy if you're playing too many snaps down there. So we'll do our best. We felt like the guys that didn't necessarily trot out there with the ones made some plays. I think it helps. I've always been a believer in this. I've not always been at a place I've always been a believer in this. We've not always had this opportunity, but the more guys that get to play, the better practice is. And when they know that they're going to play, even if it's only some, they usually are a little more aware and pay a little more attention to what's going on. So I've certainly seen that leading up into the first game with our defensive line and their willingness to shuttle guys in and out.
Thanks. Mike Barber.
Yeah, Justin, can you tell us, would you anticipate being able to play Hendon this week? I know you say you get him back to practice and all that.
I think so. Yep.
And how much was he impacted by the time away? The fact that he played last year obviously helps. How ready do you feel he is?
Well, we haven't had him for a while, so I mean he's had a really good fall camp. I've been really pleased with him, so I feel the same as I always have.
Would you be willing to pin down at all when you say you haven't had him for a while? Can you give us a sense of how long it's been?
No.
Okay, thank you.
David Teal.
Justin, your yards per play Saturday night was the highest for Virginia Tech in 17 years in a game. Especially on the ground, was there a common thread into some of the explosive plays y'all were able to spring?
Well, I think we had them. I think our kids executed at a high level. We had them pinned down pretty well in terms of what they were doing schematically, and then our kids went out there and executed. And then, we got the ball to the unblocked hat a couple times and made the unblocked hat miss, and which led to some pretty explosive plays. So, we'll have a different challenge this week. We're going to face a really good, talented defense that certainly understands their scheme and executes it at a pretty high level. But, our execution level last week was pretty high. I think our kids had a good handle on it. They had been working on that scheme for 2 weeks. Now we only have 6 days to get ready for this one, so it's a new challenge.
You said after the game that obviously it's difficult to evaluate offensive line play just standing there on the sideline. As you went back and looked at tape yesterday, specifically Brock, you all nominated him for Offensive Lineman of the Week. What were your impressions there?
Well, we felt like he had the best match, or he was playing against probably their best player, at least in my estimation, in Aleem McNeil and the nose guard, and really felt like he was up to the challenge. When you go back and look at the film, certainly it wasn't perfect. There are tons of things that we can learn from on that film in all three phases of the game. But for Brock to go up against that quality of player and perform the way he did, we were awfully proud of him.
Did that cigar set off any smoke detectors in the locker room?
I didn't even know about that until I think it was last night. I mean, I had no clue. I'm kind of in my own. And I was talking to my folks, and my dad said, "Man, you must have a mature team or an older team if they got a cigar in the locker room." So I didn't even, I haven't talked to Brock about that yet, but I didn't even know, I didn't even know about it till last night. So.
David, Mr. Hoffman and I will chat on that topic. More wood.
We didn't see a brandy snifter or anything next to it. Just the cigar. But you guys went for two at late against NC State. Was that just hey, it's the first game of the season, we're going to have to work on this at some point, let's give this a shot, or was there something in mind there that you had going on?
It's just the chart. I mean, it's, it gets you to 28, and it was the chart, and I mean, it certainly wasn't meant to run it up on anybody. I mean, we went out of our way to take a knee at the end of the game as well. It's kind of like there's whatever there was, 9 minutes left in the game or something like that, and I mean, you recover an onside kick or don't recover an onside kick, and next thing you know, you're in a battle, and you're going to wish you'd gone ahead and stuck to the chart. So we decided to go ahead and stick with it right there.
You guys were awfully thin at receiver, probably one of the positions that was most affected by all the guys that had to sit out this past Saturday. What sorts of things did you have to get creative with the way you kind of shuffled them in and out? I mean, there's not an awful lot you can do. I know when you've only got a limited number of guys, but I didn't know if there were some things you had to do in terms of personnel groupings and things that you normally wouldn't do.
I think James Mitchell kind of helps us in that scenario, in terms of his ability to not just play in the slot. And we didn't do this very much. We didn't move him outside, but he can certainly go out there and contribute. So he gives you a little more depth there, quality depth that can help you, not only just get you out of a tough situation when you're short numbers, but be productive there. So, he kind of gives you a little security blanket there. So we didn't have to reach too far out of our kind of normal operation. I would like to get a few more of those guys back and kind of up to speed and game ready so that we can shuttle those guys in and out a little bit more, though.
Jermaine Farrell.
Coach, first of all, congratulations on the victory on Saturday.
Thank you.
I got to ask you about the athletic department, the Love Initiative. Just your thoughts about that. All the student athletes wearing those special shirts to start the program. Just your thoughts about the initiative put on by the Hokies.
Well, I think it's a great positive statement. I think I don't want to speak for Whit and his staff, and I certainly don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think the underlying message there is that love can conquer all, and listening to people and respecting people and having civil conversations about difficult topics, can ultimately help us as a society move forward. So, our kids enjoyed it. They, we have a couple words there on the back that I think are positive, that speak to subject matter that are important to all of us.
G. Long, did you have one?
I do. Justin, so when you're down a couple dozen guys and you're able to put on the performance you did regardless, what does that mean or suggest when you have a full complement of players and RE coaches? What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know. Like, each week's different, and like I said, like, there's no guaranteeing that we'll be we'll have a full complement of everybody coming into the next week. So it was nice for us to get to do it. It was nice for us to play well. Certainly, I don't want to make too much of it. There were plenty of things that we've got to do better, that other people on our schedule, starting with Duke, will highlight if we don't get fixed. So, I think we're going to have that mentality as we go throughout this season, is that we've got to do our best to get everybody prepared, and that's coaches and players alike, to play multiple roles, because we could find ourselves very easily in that situation, as soon as this week.
Hank, did you have something?
I do. Justin, you mentioned after the game kind of concern about conditioning, something you noticed kind of early on, I guess. How much of that do you attribute to the kind of stops and starts you guys have had since you got back together, and maybe how much to the amount of work players managed to do while they were home?
Sure. I mean, I would say that our kids did a great job over the 3 months or about 100 days that they were home. I was really pleased with our team when they came back. We did not have a traditional summer, and nor did anybody else, which I think affected our conditioning level. I think you could see that in practice pretty early in fall camp. But then, the last several weeks, the way we've been forced to practice, I think, raised a little bit of alarm there too. We're not able to practice as long. We just don't have as many people out there. So we've got to adjust those things. So, I think it played a big role. I think playing in the first game also, I mean, there was just such an emotional charge. Even though the stands were empty, our kids were just, there's so much adrenaline and excitement. And we got off to such a fast start that, there was a little bit of, we kind of lost our breath there for a little bit. I was pleased with how we seemed to settle down into the second half and be able to play. I think that'll continue to improve. I do think early in the week, at least we're going to this week, we'll need to do a little bit extra to kind of keep pushing that line further back so that we're in what I would consider to be good football shape.
How hard is it to do that without compromising kind of game preparation?
Well, it's the ultimate balance. That to me, one of the hardest jobs a head coach has is how to get his team prepared to play and hopefully win a football game, but also have them fresh and feeling good. And that surrounds itself around preparation, how much contact, how long to practice, how fresh are they going to be when the game rolls around. So to me, that's one of the things. Usually by this time, it's a standard process, whereas I wouldn't say that we're quite in the standard process mode just yet, because of all the things we've been through and because of kind of the flux of our roster right now.
Thank you.
Aaron?
Hey, Justin, you touched on Justice Reed's maturity level the other night, and after you talked to us, you joked with us that everybody thinks he's 30 years old. He's only 24. But beyond that level of maturity and experience there, what makes him a good pass rusher? What makes him a productive part of your defense?
Well, he's got game experience, first of all. He's there's not a lot of substitute for experience, but he also, he's a big, strong, powerful person, and he plays hard, he enjoys the game, and he's a smart player. So good things happen to people that play really hard, and in his opportunities in the game, he was playing hard, and he's just kind of got the package of a guy that has talent, but is maximizing his talent to be the best player that he can be.
Is there anything he's done at any point that you saw and you said, oh, that's something just a 19-year-old just would never be?
Well, I've seen our tight ends try to block him at times in the run game. To me, that's been the biggest thing is in practice. Just he's just a bigger, stronger person, and I've seen him, be able. We're pretty decent at tight end, and I've seen him be able to lock some of those guys out and get rid of them pretty quickly, which has made our tight end position better. Those guys going against somebody like that, it helps them improve, and they know that he's got another level of strength in there that can be hard to deal with.
Travis?
Hey, Coach, I know each team, each season is kind of its own separate entity, but that game last year where they came in and kind of took it to you guys pretty good, I know probably everyone in your locker room remembers that. Is that something that gets brought up this week? I mean, it was such a turning point game, just kind of changed the trajectory of last season.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, we were a different team for the better after that. But, we certainly know what happened and how it happened. And, there was a time in that game when we were up and playing really well, and we had a really bad, turnover, and then it steamrolled on us. And they took advantage of that to their credit, and we certainly understand what happened, and now it's time for us to we have an opportunity now to see if we have improved.
Mike Barber.
Yeah, Justin, one more on your offensive line, and Brock had talked about that edge and the nastiness that he likes to bring. Has his personality had an impact on that group, even last year when he couldn't suit up for games?
I think so. He's a positive person and a confident person, but he backs it up with hard work. He's a really intelligent player, so he can help. It's easy for him to help other people not just know what to do, but know how to do it. I think they feel really good and strong and unified and powerful when he's around, and that's a good thing. He certainly has. I can say this without a doubt. He has helped other people elevate their game, and that's through his leadership. That's through his work ethic. That's through his intelligence. A big piece of our football team right now.
Thank you.
Mike Nisley.
Yeah, Justin, this week is obviously the first road game. Any specific worries about traveling kind of now for the first time outside of the state, and just kind of what all the protocols are? I mean, how many obstacles are there for that? Is it a challenge?
Certainly. I mean, it's just not the same. You used to just, pick up your sandwich and jump on the bus and go and eat on the bus and do it. And they're just, we're going to be masked up all the way down and all the way back. And, there's a bunch of those things that we need to adhere to that we'll do a good job with. The layout in the hotel, there's some details there that our ops people have to make sure and work out and kind of comb through to make sure everything's in line with what we need to have. So, we've got people that have done a great job, starting with Mike Goforth all the way through our ops personnel that have done a great job kind of combing through those details and telling us what we need to do.
How many more buses than normal do you guys take? Do you know?
I do not know the answer to that.
Time for a few more, Corey.
Hey, Coach, it seems like really college football has really shifted towards not just making a splash in recruiting, but in the transfer market as well. How have you kind of exploited that in a sense and gotten kind of immediate impact from some of those guys that you brought in, Justice, Khalil, Raheem, the list kind of goes on?
Yeah, that's a great point. We've been a huge benefactor of the transfer portal. I don't know that anybody's brought in higher character, better kids and added more to their locker room than we have. In terms of, certainly we talk about how they produce on the field, but I'm talking about high-end individuals that are leaders that are doing more than just contributing on the field for our program. So I couldn't be happier with how that's all worked out for Virginia Tech. I do think there is an element of this place may appeal sometimes to some guys that are a little bit older. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just kind of projecting there. But I can tell you this: we do our due diligence on them. There are people out there that just a guy enters and he's played a little bit for some school and they just go out and try and get him. And we really slow down and try and talk to people and really try and get a good handle on what we're adding, not just as a player, but maybe most importantly as a person. And we have done our staff has done a really good job of vetting those young men, and we've had some great additions here on our team.
Couple more, Tim.
Coach, you're going against a Duke defensive line with probably two of the conference's best defensive ends, Chris Rump, Victor Demukajay, who I know already has 4 sacks on the season. Schematically speaking, how do you approach kind of going against two defensive ends who are such productive players, and what kind of adjustments do you have to make?
Well, I'm glad you asked about Duke and their defense, because I'm telling you they are really good, and they pressure, they play man coverage, they play some quarters, They mix in their looks. They've got some guys over there that have played a tremendous amount of snaps that absolutely understand their scheme, and they have played. And I know that you guys can talk about the record, but I'm telling you they've played at a high level in all 3 games. I mean, they were up by 3 points with 1 minute and 15 seconds or something like that to go in the third quarter with the ball on Virginia's 25-yard line, 1st and 10. And they ran a trick play that didn't work out, and the wheels kind of fell off from then on. But, I mean, they certainly had Virginia. It was certainly a competitive game heading into the fourth quarter. So, specifically to your question, it's going to be all we can handle. It's not just the ends; it's the inside guys that are good players, the linebackers. We'll have to do a good job, trying to mitigate their pressure, trying to find a way to run the football. And I'm going to tell you, it's not going to look like it looked last week. I'm going to hand the ball off on the weak side stretch, and the guy's just going to run down the numbers all the way into the end zone untouched. Okay, this is going to be this is a group that is disciplined, that is gap sound, and that is physical. So we'll have to do a great job getting our guys ready to play, try to stay out of some of those one-on-one situations, give our guys help if we can in order to have the best chance to have success.
Mike McDaniel.
Hey, Coach Fuente, I wanted to ask you about Chase Brice, Duke's quarterback, transferring in from Clemson. It's been an up and down first few games for him, but he's quite a bit different stylistically from what you all faced a year ago against Quentin Harris. So would you mind just kind of expanding on what you've seen out of him and what you expect the challenge to be this Saturday?
Well, certainly. I mean, Coach Cutcliffe will, I'm sure, make adjustments to what they've struggled with. They have turned the ball over in the first 3 games. I think that's probably their biggest thing. If they've got points that they've left on the field, and I know I've heard Coach Cut talk about it, and I know he'll get those things fixed and get Chase back playing, at a high level. I think he's a talented, big, strong-armed kid that can really deliver the ball really all over the place. I haven't seen a throw that the guy can't make, and it's going to be a tremendous challenge. It is a little bit different, but you're talking about a big, strong-armed guy that can throw the comeback all the way across the field or drop the post in the middle of the field. So, he's got lots of talent, and it's only a matter of time before he finds his stride. I think he'll settle down and eventually have a good season.
All right, final contestant live from New York. It's Ralph Russo.
Hey, Justin. Question, 2 of them really, but one particular related to sort of conditioning and things that Hank was saying. When a player is in quarantine, so not testing positive, or maybe even in isolation where he tested positive but is asymptomatic, is there anything you can do with them or for them to help them just stay in shape for a couple of weeks? I'm sure you don't want these guys literally sitting around for 14 days. Is there any plan that you've had to try to help the guys who are in quarantine or isolation, who aren't sick, to stay active?
Okay, so good question. If they have tested positive, no. Okay, because there is still echoes and things that we've got to get on their heart when they come out. When they are a victim of contact tracing, per se, there are some things that we can do to encourage them to stay in shape. And we have had some guys take advantage of those things so that they're not just starting from scratch when they do come back.
And the other thing I wanted to ask is, you obviously had a lot of time where you were not playing. I'm just wondering if there was anything you could do creatively, not just to keep your team in shape to play, but to keep your guys engaged when they are not playing a football game, because I gotta imagine at a certain point it becomes hard to keep their attention.
Well, you're right, it is. And, we try to find something, when we had a couple weeks there, it's a little bit difficult because we don't have half of them, so you can't, it's hard to do something fun together to take your mind off of it when half the guys can't even come, so that was an interesting challenge that we talked at length about as a staff that the best solution that we ultimately had was continuing to stay in touch with those that weren't with us. Obviously we backed off a little bit of practice with the guys who were here, gave them a little bit of time off so that it wasn't just drudgery every single day, with no end in sight. So we tried to alleviate a little bit of that. We couldn't really come up with something that was like, that was really a fun activity because of the circumstances we were all in. But we tried to let up on practice, give them a little bit of time to themselves so that they could come back after a day or two and feel a little bit more refreshed. They could watch the ball games, so on and so forth. To try and keep the guys a little bit fresh because it's like we've been practicing forever. It's just one practice after another. So trying to give them more than one day off, I think, was important to the kids.
All right, thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody. We'll have some student athletes tomorrow after practice.